Do you feel like you've gone a little bit sideways on your health and fitness goals? Well, the good news is you're not alone. And also, it doesn't matter if it's been the last few days, weeks, or even years. Because in the same way that a room that's been dark for centuries can light up just with a strike of a match, once you get a good plan and a solid direction, you can get your health and fitness on track a lot faster and easier than you probably ever imagined. So we're going to be giving kind of an overview today on how to do an effective juice cleanse. And just a little bit of background on me and Matt. We have combined 35 years of experience in plant-based nutrition. 20 of those years is in helping people through detoxification, getting lean and getting their health back. And we both have our own journey of transformation, which was kicked off through juice cleansing or juice feasting. So together, Matt and I have released over 125 pounds, 80 pounds for Matt, 45, a little over for 45 for me. And for both of us, synchronistically, that was over 10 years ago. So we have a lot of experience, we have success in this field, and we've been able to maintain our health and weight loss success for over 10 years. Neither of us are on any medications. We both have really good health. And so we're here just to share what's worked for us, what's worked for our clients, and what can work for you as well. So for this video specifically, as I mentioned, we're going to be going over how to do an effective juice cleanse or juice feast, or as we like to say, solid food vacation. Shout out to John Rose. And if you don't want to take the time to listen to the whole video, then you can just go ahead and grab our free cleanse guide. It will be linked in the description below. And just to give you an overview for the video, we're going to talk about, number one, why a juice cleanse? Why is a juice feast such an effective way to ignite your health and fitness goals? We're also going to talk about how to prepare, which is important. We're going to offer some different recipes that you can use, really our favorite juice recipes. We're going to talk about how much to drink, which is a really key thing to get dialed in. We're going to talk about what to expect, so both physically as well as mentally, emotionally, when you're doing a juice cleanse. And then we'll talk about how to transition at the end of your juice cleanse. And that's the most important piece of this whole thing. And then keeping the momentum going. So what will you do to utilize your juice cleanse as a pivot point or a catalyst to go into a higher timeline with your health and fitness? So yeah, basically that's what we're going to be covering in the video. And thank you, Matt, so much for joining me again.
Thank you very much. Great being
Yeah.
back. We've talked a lot off camera, and I love all of our discussions. So I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, Matt and I, we connected just recently, well, the last few weeks, and we're just super aligned in our ethos, in our experience, and what we have found to be the most powerful and the healthiest way to release body fat quickly, as well as just heal the whole system. And this is really a holistic approach. And so a lot of times people will do quick fixes or things that aren't really that great for health. You might look good, but it's not really sustainable long term. So I'm just super happy to be connected with Matt because he's got amazing experience and we're just very much aligned. And we have some great stuff to share with you today in this video. So we'll start with just why a juice feast or a solid food vacation. This, as I mentioned before, was the launching pad for both of us to transform our health and our body and much more, really our whole life. And so, yeah, we're both very passionate about juicing. And I just thought maybe, Matt, if you want to start sharing kind of maybe a little bit about your start into juicing, like what kind of got you excited or into it and why you feel this is one of the most powerful ways to help people as a catalyst to transform their health and their body.
Sure. Yeah. Well, so first I'd like to say this is a whole reset. Whether you do 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, which are the majority of people, haven't heard of extended, juice cleansing a lot. And so they're like, well, let's start in on a juice cleanse. We know that the Hollywood diet's the 10-day juice fast or something like that. So I look at this as a step back, a reset, a way to take a deep breath and just exhale and reassess all your situation. Because when I started 10 years ago on my first extended juice cleanse, I didn't intend to go the full distance. I didn't really know what I was doing. I knew I needed to change because I had gotten to a point where I was no longer able to run around and, do the things that I was doing with my kids with full energy and full efficiency like I used to be, 5 years before they were born. Because I was an athlete growing up. I was in and out of the gyms all the time, so I was a very fit person, very in shape, and so it kind of hit a wall in my mid 30s, and I just kind of spent a few years really sedentary, eating whatever I wanted to. And one thing led to another, and I just one day I was trying to put on my shoes, and I almost felt like a panic attack coming on because I was almost claustrophobic in my own body. And this
Mm,
was so
yeah.
people who hadn't seen me in a long time, because since once I graduated high school, I hadn't seen a lot of people that I used to be, in constant contact with for many, many years, 15, 20 years before I'd seen some of my old friends. And people were just like, that's not him. That's not the guy we once knew. And it wasn't. I just, life got to me in many different ways. And it almost was like caving in on me mentally and physically. And so that's when it hit the head, and I was just like, okay, taking a deep breath, had to suck the gut in just to tie my shoe, had, anxiety attacks, panic attacks that landed me in the hospital. And that's when I said, okay, now is the time to make a change, because there's no positive going from where I'm at any further. And that's when I started doing. I'd known about the plant-based lifestyle before, because previously 3 years I had dabbled in it with some high raw, going all raw on all fruits for 6 months at a time, losing a good amount of weight, and then bouncing right back after I had stopped and I went back to the standard American diet. But I had the knowledge in me this whole time, and I was just putting it off, as we often do. And then it always stuck in the back of my mind, and it was there for a reason. I know it for many, many reasons, but first and foremost, for me to kind of finally take that first step and to look at myself with a microscopic lens and say, hey, look, you need to really get down and serious about your health, or you're going down a road that sometimes you never get to come back from. And so that's when I started watching a lot of John Rose videos, and and for whatever reason, came out of nowhere almost.
Yeah.
And he had been on the scene for quite a while at that time. But I think when I started watching his videos, he had something around 1,200 subscribers. He's now well over 130,000 subscribers. But he was very only he was almost like a mystic figure in our niche world of the raw vegan and juice detoxification. And the minute I heard his first video, it almost like grew roots deep within me, and I knew that I was going to do this. And so I just one day made the decision, looked for a Norwalk juicer online, purchased it, and said the next day, here we go. And myself and my brother, he looked at me. He wasn't even planning on doing anything like this either. He said, let's go, let's do it, and let's see how long we can go. And we went 107 days the first time. And to say that it was anything less than profound, I mean, that's exactly what it was. It was a huge awakening, a huge eye opener, and it changed my life in so many ways. And it changed my life in long term, but in 90 days, I mean, it just really 180 degrees the opposite way, and I have not looked back ever since. So,
Yeah, and just for people who are watching that aren't familiar with John Rose, he's in the world of detoxification, juice cleansing, juice feasting. He's famous and he's awesome. He's probably in his, I don't know, 60s, but he looks amazing. He's a raw vegan, and he is a huge advocate for what he calls a solid food vacation and going the distance, which in his mind and his advice is to go at least 90 days or a full 90 days only on juice. And so this is something that is pretty pretty amazing for someone to do that and to go, complete 90 days. And Matt, so basically when you started that solid food vacation, was that the thing where you lost the 80 pounds, doing that for the full 90 days, and juicing only? So no solid food, just only juices for 90 days. Is that right?
Yeah. Prior to that, I had gone fully raw for about a month and a half. And I lost probably about 20 pounds before I started. And I said, okay, because I know that John Rose talked about you want to kind of prepare yourself, not for a long time, because he believes you can go right into it. 99% of the population with any ailment will be just fine going into it. But he did mention, hey, if you're looking to kind of ease into it at first, think about going raw for a couple weeks or a month before. And so I thought, okay, let's do that for a little bit. And then I started seeing some results, and I said, okay, now's the time. Let's go. I got some good momentum, and that's when I looked at my brother and said, let's go. And so that's what we did. So I lost probably on the solid food vacation, probably about 60, 65 pounds just from the juice cleanse. So
Yeah.
way more powerful than going raw right away.
Yeah. And I think, for people I think it's a common misconception or belief that doing cleanses or fasts is not an effective way to release weight. And I would say that that's true as far as it's not a long-term game plan, but I feel like it's super powerful, like we're talking about, to make that shift. And this kind of goes back to why a juice cleanse, why do a solid food vacation as your catalyst or to ignite your journey. And there's many reasons, but one of the big ones I feel is it's a pattern disruptor. And so, we're used to eating, and like you were saying, Matt, you did raw foods for a certain period of time, and then you went into the juice. And some people feel like, okay, I might need a little transition, but I agree with you and John Rose that it's not necessary. Like over the years, Matt and I both have read a lot of the books from the greats and the giants in this field, and they have differing opinions. Some say, oh, you should do a long time preparing and getting the body ready. Others say, like John Rose, just dive right in. And I think it has a lot to do with the personality. I think Matt and I are both kind of dive right in type of people, kind of intense and ready for the adventure. Some people I've worked with, they feel a little bit intimidated by doing that. And so they want to take a little bit of time to prepare and step into it. But I feel that juicing is so powerful it's a pattern disruptor from what you were doing before. And you're flooding your body with massive amounts of enzymes and biophotons and energy. And I don't know any other way to get that amount of nutrition, minerals, vitamins, and as I mentioned, enzymes and biophotons into your system. And what these do, the enzymes are catalysts to actually clean out all of the stagnation of your body. And those biophotons give you energy. And so when people go on to a juice feast or a solid food vacation, they very quickly feel a shift from how they felt before to how they feel now. And I feel like that's a really powerful thing to have that experience, because now they know what they're working towards for long-term goals. And also, it's all of that energy coming into the system. It just gives you an upgrade, a radical upgrade very quickly. You start seeing results really quickly, start feeling good really quickly. And then now you have buy-in to actually make the changes. Where I feel like if people try to just go slow, like, oh, I'll just eat a little bit better, or it's kind of vague, or something like that, it's a lot easier to just backslide, where when you make the commitment, you jump all in. And it doesn't necessarily have to be 90 days, could be 21 days or whatever you feel comfortable with. This is something that Matt and I were talking about. So my journey also started with juicing, and I had done juicing as a child. Actually, my mom would make carrot juice, carrot apple juice, and so I was familiar with it. But I first got inspired by, I think, Jay Kordich, the juice man. If you've ever seen his infomercials, he has super giant eyebrows. That guy was so lit and so energetic. It's like, wow. And then, like Matt, I had been putting on weight kind of consistently since my early 20s. And then it was about the age of 30. I had tried lots of things, and I was pretty addicted to sugar. I had problems with allergies, asthma, but mostly my weight was the thing that was really bothering me because I just wasn't comfortable in my body. And I was able to somewhat manage it in my early 20s with intense exercise, but as I got older, that really wasn't working. So I was doing 45 minutes at the gym on the cardio machines with really intense resistance. So, really doing quite a lot of work. And you've probably heard that you can't outrun your diet, or I don't know what the phrase is, but basically you can't work out enough to make up for bad eating habits. So I had tried cold turkey, I had tried getting off sugar, tried lots of different things, but somewhere along the way in kind of my late 20s, I got introduced to raw and living foods, as well as meditation, yoga, and juice feasting all at the same time. It was just like my world happened to all open up at once. And so
Storm.
yeah, exactly. And so just like Matt, I went out and bought, I didn't get a Norwalk juicer, I got a Green Star. But for me at that point in my 20s, that was like, big chunk of my budget. I think it was $500. And I still have that juicer, by the way. So it's almost 20 years old and it still works great. So I got inspired to do a juice cleanse, and I just juiced up all my juice the night before, put it in the fridge. And just like you said, Matt, it was a massive shift in my consciousness. And I think when you upgrade your biology, it's like your body all of a sudden is starting to crave those kinds of foods. And I've had this with my clients as well. I had a client, Erica, that she was addicted to all sorts of junk foods, and she did only a 7-day juice cleanse. And she told me at the end, I'm only craving fruits and vegetables. And she was pretty shocked. And so, this is another reason why I feel like juicing is so powerful, is that it changes your biochemistry and it can change your taste buds, and just your microbiome begins to shift, and all of that works in your favor to start steering your cravings in a positive direction. So
Yeah. One thing I wanted to just add to that too is, when people just on a 7-day, when they're like, gosh, it's so wonderful how good you can feel, when people transition slowly over to more like a liquid diet or a juice cleanse, they use oftentimes, like it's called gourmet raw. And with
mhm.
the gourmet raw, you do have the sodium in there. You still have those flavor bombs that are going to hit and hit those taste bud sensors, that's going to kind of keep you in that realm of like, oh, it's still kind of like what I was doing before. But when you cut all that off and you go straight to the hydration, straight to those astringent juices that just knock everything out and give you that reset, 7 days, you were right on when you said that. I mean, it's just like, it is a profound experience. You're like, it's like that, you crawl out of that rut you didn't know you were in. That's quoting John Rose. You just
Yeah.
didn't know you were in such a deep rut until you block yourself off from that and give yourself a new perspective and start flooding your whole vessel with biophotons, that sunlight energy, all that oxygen. The living foods hit every single cell in your body, and it's just like, it's almost like a light switch, boom, and then you got, oh my gosh, what have I been missing my whole life? And then it continues on and on and on. So
Yeah, and you spoke on something earlier that I wanted to circle back around to, which was the mental health side of this. So a lot of times women will come to me wanting to release excess body fat, wanting to get in shape. Many times they also have dis-ease conditions that they want to heal up their body. But something that I think gets overlooked a lot is the mental health piece, and how much our mental health is tied into our microbiome and what we're consuming, and toxicity. So people, when they feel extremely agitated, aggravated, short-tempered, irritable with the kids, irritable with their boss or their spouse or whatever, most people don't realize that the acidic wastes that are in the body are literally agitating your nervous system. It's making it difficult to sleep. It's disrupting your hormones. And so this is all interconnected. And I've had myself, your story, and many of my clients really surprised at how much their mental health improved when they started cleansing and detoxifying their body. And then when you just look at juices, there's such a happy vibration. And I remember my first 3-day juice cleanse in my late 20s. I was on the phone with a girlfriend. I was like, I've got a rainbow in my kitchen. And, I had these orange colors and reds and purples and all this stuff coming through. And so I think if you just tune in, it's pretty obvious that juicing is very high frequency, and this is really happy food. And so people, especially now, probably more than ever, that are struggling with uncertainty about the future, uncertainty just about their stability, the world, politics, and then you add on top of that stagnation and toxicity in the body. This is just a recipe for very poor mental health. And so even if somebody feels like they're in relatively good shape, or if they don't feel like they have any specific disease they need to heal, I feel like pretty much everybody across the board could improve their mental health and their optimism, their motivation, their energy by incorporating juices, or definitely going on a full-on juice cleanse. So it's a win physically, it's a win mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, which maybe we'll get into in a little bit later too.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I feel it's a lot more about also about what not so much what you're putting in your body with the juices, which it is definitely, but look at what you're now, you know, deleting from your daily habits. It's those dead foods, those
Right.
dehydrated, sludgy, just, solid. They just don't pass through you. And so the benefits of the juices is the biophotons, because now what they allow you to do is all your cells are communicating at once. So now all that electricity is flowing through your body. It's clearing those detoxification pathways. It's allowing the life force prana to now just continue on head to toe all the way down. If you're in the grass touching, it's a cycle. You're grounding, and it's, you're electric. You're literally electric being. And along with all those juices, you have those high level of enzymes. And enzymes, as we know, as you explained it perfectly earlier, but they allow everything in our body to function. That's the foundation of life. If we didn't have enzymes, nothing would be alive and we would not see life. So it is very vital to get, high amounts of enzymes, high amounts of biophotons. And there's no way, there's no diet and no other way you could do by juicing. You could juice 100 pounds in a day, literally, of fruits and vegetables, and
Right.
consume that within 1 week. Now try to go and eat 100 pounds of fruits and vegetables in 1 week. It won't happen. So that's why if you take a solid food vacation, 3, 7, 21, 45, 90 to, and beyond, you are going to get hundreds and thousands of pounds of living biophotons, vitamins, nutrients, minerals, oxygen, and you are going to become a different being
You're going to
altogether.
get lit. You're going to get
Absolutely,
lit up. Yeah.
absolutely, yes.
Well, and for anybody that's not familiar with the term biophotons, essentially this is just a fancy way of talking about sunlight energy. So the sun is the source of all life on the planet. Everything that's living and growing, including humans, require the sun to thrive. And so the raw fruits and vegetables absorb and concentrate that sunlight energy. And then when you juice it, you're concentrating it even further. And this is why when people are on a juice cleanse, if you've ever done one or seen somebody that's on a juice cleanse, they are lit up. Their skin is glowing. Their eyes are bright. There's just a massive amount of energy. And a lot of times people have so much energy because the stale foods, the overeating, the stodgy foods were bogging down the digestive system. So when people go on a solid food vacation, they have so much energy that many times they're doing exercise just because they feel like it. And you had an interesting story, Matt, where you were doing, what did you say, burpees with your
Yeah.
kids?
Yeah, we were doing a program called Busy Dad Training, and it's where you do as many burpees or 6 counts as you can do in 20 minutes. And it's a very high intensive, high cardio, very calisthenic program. And at the end of the 20 minutes, we're usually exhausted. But when I'm on the juice cleanse, like I was this fall and the end of summer, I was finished with the 20 minutes, and I was just kept going because I wasn't tired. Didn't know what was happening. I was like just joking with my wife. I kept doing push-ups after we were done. I just kept going and going and going, and I'm like, I can't stop. And she's like, stop, you're done. I'm like, I can't. I feel too good. And I did 600 plus push-ups,
Wow.
in 20 minutes, and it was just unreal. And I'm just like, it's still after my 10th juice cleanse, I'm just like profound. I keep discovering new things, and it doesn't stop. And that's what I try to tell anybody who was willing to listen to this crazy guy. Just say, you got to get on the juice. You got to get on the juice. Flush it all out. Flush it all out. Get oxygen. You're going to have more energy than you've known in your whole life, more than when I was 18. I mean, I could have outpaced myself when I was 18 at my, 18 to mid 20s when I was at my peak fitness level. I mean, there's just, how do you explain that? I mean, it's,
Well, it comes back to the sun. Because think
yeah,
about it, the sun
absolutely.
doesn't take a nap. It's just
Yeah, that's right.
all the time. So
Yeah.
good. So maybe let's get into a little bit your recommendations for people who are like, okay, so this is sounding pretty good. Maybe I dip my toes in, and
Yep.
however long people feel to go. What would you recommend people do to prepare, other than buy produce? But what would you suggest as far as preparing, like their environment, their mindset, their body, anything like that?
Yeah, 100%. And if I could go back, although I wouldn't go back and change anything because it manifested the way it was supposed to. It was supposed to
Mhm.
go that way because I learned a lot from it. What I would tell somebody after doing this for 10 years and coaching clients for 10 years is have an open mind and be very intentional. Set your intentions for what you're truly seeking out of this. And I know a lot of people are suffering from diseases, pain, migraines, all sorts of things along the way, which those will go very quickly if you really really commit yourself in, and you have guidance from coaches such as ourselves. If you have that, and discipline and positive intention, you can get rid of all those ailments. I've seen it happen. I've reversed a lot of people's very serious, very life-threatening ailments. I know we're not supposed to call them diseases, right?
I
Because
like that. I
you
caught that. I was
know,
like, ailments. I like it. I'm gonna
yeah.
use
It's
that.
like, okay, because I always say diseases all the time, and people are like, just like rolling their eyes. I'm like, but they don't happen to us. We are consuming them. I don't want to, I'm not putting anybody down. I definitely am not. I was there in my life. It's just that when you wake up and your eyes are wide open, you're realizing that we are consuming, 98% of our diseases. Now we have environmental toxins and all that kind of stuff, but the majority is what we are, consenting
Lifestyle.
to. Yes,
Yeah.
100%, and a lot, and most of us know it too. And that's
Mhm.
the hard part. It's like, yeah, I know this burger that I'm eating is not good. I know this drink that I'm going to have tonight is not good. It's just that we get caught in that cycle, and it's this is a way out for sure. So the diseases are very very attainable to reversing. But what I was getting at is, even on a more important level, I feel spiritually, for me, after all this time, yeah, it's fun. Like we were talking, it's fun to lose all your weight. It's fun to get rid of your, arthritic joints from years of sports and all that kind of stuff. um, but when you're in those moments, and you do have them in 3 day fast, seven, you name it, you do have those moments of clarity, especially on the longer fasts. But when you do have your eyes, wide open, and you are awakened, it is a more profound experience than getting rid of any ailment. And I know that's kind of a crazy statement, but I think that the mind is far more powerful than any ailment in our body. And if you can get in touch with your inner self truly, and be free of all this clutter and this um, garbage weighing our bodies down internally and everything, it opens the channels to you really realizing what is truly important in this life. So,
Yeah, I think that's huge. And a lot of this has to do with mindset. So coming back to preparing, like you mentioned, it's really good to have a strong why and strong motivation, and then a lot of clarity on, what are you just doing it for fun, which is okay. You
sure.
want to check it out, or do you really have something? And many times, if the reason you think you're doing it for, there's something underneath that. So a lot of times people will say, well, I want to improve my health. And then you dig a little deeper and it's like, well, actually, I want to be around for my kids. I want to be able to play with my grandkids. So if you can kind of spend some time doing some introspection and really meditating, like maybe what we're sharing resonates with you, but you don't really know why. So you can kind of sit with it and explore that a little bit and connect in with yourself, your higher self, your soul, or however you pray or connect, and ask some deeper questions about really like where is your life going right now? And if this is sounding a little bit interesting or something you want to do, see if you can get to the deepest core reason of that why. And then the next thing is, once you kind of decide to do something, getting that really powerful mindset of going all in. And it doesn't have to be like, if you decide, okay, I'm going to go 7 days, and 5 days in, you're just feeling like, okay, I'm finished. Be easy with yourself, be graceful with yourself, but it's really good to pick a number of days to have it in your mind, like a goal of what you're going to do for the cleanse. And then a good part of preparation too is creating sacred space. So many times I've seen people jump into a juice cleanse. They get inspired by a YouTube video or a book, and they jump in, and then it's like, whoa, there were social situations or work situations or different things they didn't anticipate interfering with this process. And for me, and I think also for you, Matt, as well, and many people, doing a type of a cleanse or any kind of detoxification, it can be a type of spiritual experience and a personal development where you kind of develop your cocoon, and you are going through a transformation. Especially the longer you stay on juice, the deeper that transformation is going to be. And so being mindful about your environments, and this can include things like sharing the fact that you're going on a solid food vacation or a juice feast with the people who are supportive, and not sharing it with people who aren't supportive, because many times people can get derailed by naysayers or just negativity. Sometimes it's jealousy. It can be anything, but many times when we try to up level, there's a counterbalance. It's like when we go towards the light, that darkness or that negative energy can be within our own self or coming from the outside. And so being mindful about who you share what you're doing with. But it is helpful, especially if you live with people, if you have family or roommates, that people are aware like what you're doing, so you kind of have that support. And then it's good, like if people are going to do a shorter juice cleanse, I recommend starting on a Friday. So you have Friday, Saturday, Sunday kind of to do it. And then of course, if you're going longer, maybe picking a time of year that's not Christmas, or, when you're planning your holiday or whatever it may be, just being a little bit mindful and, as Matt said, intentional about the timing and what we call set and setting. Like where are you going to be? Maybe you're taking a vacation and it's the perfect time to do a juice cleanse because you're going to the tropics and it just works out. I teach yoga at week-long detox retreats around the United States, and people love to take a week out of their busy life. We rent these mansions or large houses, and it's about 15 guests, and they just come for that week and they do all juice during that week. And so being mindful, and then I like to create sacred space as well. So this can look a lot of ways, lighting some candles, setting your intention, having a journal. And I think it's good to spend at least some time every day during a cleanse in introspection. So that could be yoga, meditation, time in nature as much as possible. All of these things are going to improve your experience of the cleanse. And so as you prepare, I know I said a lot of things, but just these are things to keep in mind. You don't have to do all of them. It's not like a checklist, but just some things to keep in mind. How can you make this the most comfortable? And then of course the practical things, making sure you've got enough produce on hand. And I don't know what your thoughts are, Matt, but from my perspective, fresh is best, of course, to make fresh juice as you drink it. A lot of people don't have that leisure, so you can make it all the morning of or the night before is what I did for my first juice cleanse. And then in a pinch, you can swing by a juice bar or even get a bottle of cold pressed juices if you need to. So it's kind of like the good, better, best. I mean, it's good to get the juices in. I would even go for a bottle of pasteurized juice on the shelf that is technically cooked. It's still going to have minerals, and if it's a fruit juice, it's still going to have those astringents that help to pull and cleanse the digestive tract and the lymphatic system. And so, so that was kind of my thoughts on preparation. Is there anything else that we missed on that piece of it?
No, I think another one preparation, I guess this doesn't really go along with it, but it does. Just keep in mind to keep everything repetitive. Be
Mhm.
consistent is what I found, especially with the first one. I didn't really know what we were getting into, so we were making our juices. We were doing 64-ounce jars 3 to 4 times a day, so we were having a lot. And I was like, well, until we start really learning more, let's just keep doing this over and over. And it was almost like your morning routine. You would get up, you would
Mhm.
have a water meal, you would do, exercise and do all that kind of stuff. Have your juices, get off to work. And every solid food vacation, I was one of those guys. I didn't have the luxury of, juicing and drinking it on the spot. So I was always batch juicing.
Mhm.
But I had my routine. Okay, get my igloo cooler out, get all my jars, my ice packs, get everything but everything was done day in and day out. And Bob Proctor, I don't know if you're familiar with Bob
Mhm.
Proctor,
Yeah.
but he always talks about the most powerful thing you can do is repetition in
Mhm.
learning, in exercising, all that kind of stuff. It's all just training your body, training your mind. And once you have that all down, then it's just like clockwork. And then you will never, go off the rails or, um, lose sight of what you're in it for. So I would say that does go along with preparation. Just get that mindset too, in getting a good routine down and sticking
Mhm.
with it. And you can go off. I'm not saying be rigid and just be like, oh my gosh, I didn't do it this. But as long as you have that framework, you're gonna set yourself up for really good success. So
Yeah, and I think that's excellent advice. Like getting a system in
yes,
place. When I did my
absolutely.
first juice cleanse, I got a bunch of those kombucha bottles, the glass jars,
Hmm.
and so I had those set up. And then just every night, after work, I'd go to the grocery store, get my produce, come home. It took about an hour or so, but I wash everything, juice everything, bottle
Yeah.
it all up, and just got into that routine. So that systematize, and then this kind of leads to the next segment that we'll talk about, which is recipes. And I would say that a lot of people ask me, well, I need juice recipes. I need to know what to make. And honestly, the simplicity wins here. I mean, we both have lots of amazing juice recipes, and we'll share with you some of our favorites. But if you just make the juice, it can be all carrot juice, all cucumber juice, all grape juice. You can just do mono juices, watermelon juice. My husband's doing a ton of watermelon juice lately. So it doesn't have to be complicated, but it can be if you want to make it fun and you want to mix it up. But as far as recipes and, kind of tying into preparation, I think simplicity is really key.
Just to give you an idea, this is almost like a mono juice cleanse. This last summer, my brother and I did. We bought over, I think this year was our record. We bought over 4,500, almost I think 5,000 pounds of watermelon. And so, I mean, we were juicing. I was having watermelon every single day, multiple times a day. And if I wanted to, I was doing an orange juice to kind of break it up, but. Honestly, this time I didn't really do that many green juices, and I'm an advocate for green juices. I love them. But on these short, and I call them short, 90 days, you can do mono. You can go.
Mhm.
I know guys who have gone 60, 70 days on straight orange juice. No
Mhm.
problem. I mean, it's
Yeah.
very astringent. I think by doing this, there's a couple of really good reasons to do so. Number one, you're not going to overwhelm yourself with trying to put together all these recipes, gather all these different greens and all these things, and okay, go down a list of how many of what and what, and you're overwhelming yourself. You're thinking too much about it, and your body knows simplicity at the
Mhm.
finest. So, I would get up and we would have our jar of apple juice. The next one it'd be crazy. It'd be two items. It would be apple juice and carrot. And then our
Mhm.
third one, we would have our green juice. But that was a lot. That was involved, especially with the Norwalk. That was a big to do. But as the years went on, I was like, no, I love all grape juice. I love all orange juice, all apple juice. I love watermelon juice. I think it's probably if I could honestly recommend anybody who has the time to pick and choose when they're going to do a fast, I would wait until watermelon season comes in because you can get them by the 700-pound bins that we ordered. every 3 weeks we would go through a 700-pound bin, and you
Wow.
could just, I mean, the amount of hydration that you get and the amount of biophotons, and you're functioning on all cylinders. It's
Yeah.
crazy. And you can add so much to the watermelon if you want to switch it up. You can do mint or basil and
I
all that
love
kind of
mint
stuff.
with watermelon. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's not complicated. It's like, oh, watermelon, mint, watermelon, basil. And you juice the rinds too. So you get a ton of juice, and it's sweet, and it's I can't say enough about it. It's the best feeling if you have never done a juice cleanse to jump into an all watermelon juice cleanse.
So this is a good time since we're talking about, you mentioned several fruit juices, which I
Yeah,
know for a lot of people, it kind of triggers something in the back of their mind. They think, oh, that's too much sugar. And what
right.
about diabetes? And so would you like to speak on that part about,
Yeah.
yeah. And one thing I'll just say, before you go into it is, a similar misconception that people have is that there is no fiber in juice, and that's not true. Actually, you're only removing the insoluble fiber, but the soluble fiber is retained. And so that's something to keep in mind with the juices is that there is fiber. And so it's not a fiber free, it's just you're taking out the insoluble fiber. And so what would you say, Matt, to someone who's concerned about their blood sugar, concerned about diabetes, and isn't that too much sugar and maybe even too many calories or weight gain or any of those kind of concerns, whatever you want to touch
Sure.
on.
All those things that you just mentioned, calories, sugar, all that stuff, wonderful. You want that. That's what your body thrives on. Our bodies convert everything. Whether you eat a steak, a potato, rice, anything, your body has to then convert it over to a simple sugar to even utilize and digest it for its energy. So by going to fruit in a whole food sense or a juice, you're cutting out the middleman, and you're utilizing almost zero digestion, and it is now allowing your detoxification organs to rest and do their job and continue to detoxify your body easily. So yeah, no, that's a wonderful aspect of it. The sugar thing, I've heard this one since day one, and it's crazy. It's just crazy because fructose is not processed sugar at all. This is nature's fuel for our bodies. That other stuff is what is actually, detrimental to your brain. It's detrimental to every cell in your body. It is night and day difference. And oftentimes, people get that confused because of the propaganda through, those big dairy and big meat industries pumping all these myths so that you'll then, stay away from that sugar, the fruit, the good stuff, and come and buy their product because you've heard, oh, you need a lot of protein, you need a lot of protein, and you know, all the stuff that's in the meat and the dairy and all that kind of stuff. The protein is in there only because those animals are eating those plants. So there you cut out a middleman as well. So fruit sugar actually is very, very beneficial in getting rid of diabetes. And that is not the problem. The problem with diabetes is the over fat consumption. So you're taking in a lot of fat through the standard American diet, and it is now coating your cells to where you cannot absorb that sugar.
Correct.
And your body wants to absorb that sugar, and it's staying buoyant in your bloodstream. And now you're having those spiked levels, and people are like, oh my gosh, the sugar is terrible for me. It's no sugar, no sugar, high protein, no carbs, all that stuff. So it's a very, very different entity, fruit sugar versus all the processed sugar in breads and in all those cereals and those energy drinks, the sodas, and you name it. I mean, they find a way to put sugar, processed sugar in everything. And then
Yeah.
they found another fabulous way to even make it even worse and highly heat it into a high fructose corn syrup, and
Back now.
now it's concentrated, and it's just lights out,
Yeah. Well,
so
and I think another piece for people to keep in mind is there's a massive difference between refined white sugar that has been cooked.
yes.
Okay, so we're talking about raw sugars here for the most part, but also every food has its full spectrum package. And so, especially when you're eating a whole food in its most natural form, you're having the fiber, the water, the minerals, the vitamins, and the natural sugars. And this is a complete balanced food. The only difference with juicing is we're just taking out that insoluble fiber, but you still have the fiber there. And it's raw living food, so it's in its closest to nature state, other than the fact that it's been juiced. So it's maybe one step off of its perfectly natural state. So the body responds to this very differently than it responds to the other sugars that they tell diabetics to steer clear of. And this is part of the reason this isn't my personal specialty. I'm not sure about you, Matt, but many people in our field specialize in reversing type 2 diabetes, and it happens very quick. I've seen this over and over again. And what they're doing, as Matt said, is they're taking the dietary fat out. Because as he said, that fat is coating the outside of the cell and it's blocking the insulin receptor site. So you've got the blood sugars, you've got the insulin trying to take the sugar into the cell and it can't get in. So it pumps more insulin, and the blood sugar is getting higher and higher. So this is a fat issue. It's not a sugar issue. And there's a great podcast by Dr. Neil Barnard. I will see if I can find it and link it below. But he's talking about taking diabetics and he's telling them you can eat as much fruit as you care for. But what he's doing is he's lowering that dietary fat. So this is something I think was on the fringe and the cutting edge. It's now making its way more and more into the mainstream consciousness, but in another, hopefully sooner rather than later, but in some years or however long it will take, you'll see that everybody will be talking about that diabetes is not a sugar issue, it is a fat issue. So people who are concerned about fruit, there are countless examples. If you still are a little bit unsure, because we have this conditioning, right? We have this programming, and I had it too, especially around fruit. When I was in college, I remember a girl saying, "Oh, don't eat bananas. It's just like eating cake. It's going to go straight to your belly." And like not true, actually. But anyway, a big difference between cake and a banana has all of the minerals and all of this. But anyway, the point is when we're talking about natural foods, the body recognizes those foods. It knows how to utilize them, and it's designed to take in those foods, where these fraction foods, these franken foods, things that have been highly, highly processed and stripped of all the minerals, potentially even bleached and put through all these processes, that's when you're now creating a drug. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this talk, I was highly addicted to white sugar, and I guess probably bread as well, to the point where I was eating it every day. Every day I had to have a candy bar after lunch, or it was just part of my normal way of eating. And it wasn't until I got on to the fruit sugars specifically that all of a sudden my carbohydrate tank was getting fulfilled in the proper way, and it switched off that craving in my brain for good. And that I discovered that over 10 years ago. And to this day, if I consume enough fruit, either whole fruit or fruit juices, if I get enough pure natural carbs from simple sugars from the fruits, which were designed to be consuming, then I don't crave the white sugar. And there's a massive difference. I can do grape juice all day long without any crashes, without any mood swings, without feeling cranky. But if I go back and have any white sugar, I feel the difference in my body. It throws your mineral balances off, so it can cause actually constipation, dehydration, so many things. So we are talking about really different things. And I know it takes a while for people to get that. So, when I first got into some of this stuff that Matt and I are talking about, I also was like, well, that's not what I was told. That's not what I believe. And so a big part of this journey is being able to step back, set your beliefs on a shelf and investigate something. And like John Rose says, test an idea as time has come. It's like, test it in your body, see how you do. And if you're concerned, if you are diabetic, and especially if you're on insulin and you're concerned, then sure, find a practitioner, work with someone, work with a coach who has experience and can walk you through that. And many health coaches and detox specialists like Matt and I are willing to work with your physician as well. And more physicians are in support of doing this kind of thing. So if that's a concern of yours, you can work with somebody who's willing to also work side by side with your physician and monitor things so that you're able to transition safely. And I've seen so many people reverse type 2 diabetes. It's definitely worth, heading down this path. And so back to recipes, unless there's something else you want to mention on that. Do you want to share, Matt, your favorite tasty recipe that's not a mono juice?
Yes, real quick, I will mention one thing on the diabetes front. When you're starting a solid food vacation, people get nervous about that. And what I've done with my clients in the past is we will juice low glycemic fruits. So like green apples and a lot of heavy greens to
Mhm.
start that for the first 3 days until that fat kind of just until you
Mhm.
can flush a lot of that and digest that fat out after 3 days, even the most, and I've done some very severe diabetic patients that after 3 days they can go straight into pure apple juice, pure watermelon, orange juice, and they thrive. And most of the clients that I've seen that have type 2 diabetes that I cleanse with would be type 2 diabetes free within no later than 3 weeks. Very often, 7 to 14 days, they get their tests, and their doctors are like, "What happened?" And and the doctors, they still don't, they can't wrap their mind around it. So we provide real results really fast and long lasting too if you stick with this game plan and a whole plant-based foods lifestyle after that. So I just wanted to touch on that one real
Yeah,
quick.
thank
So
you. Yeah,
yeah, of
that's
course,
awesome.
because I know people do get nervous about that, and there's no reason to be nervous because it's one of the easiest things to get rid of. High blood pressure, diabetes, right away. It's
Hmm.
easy. So, as far as your question on the recipes, my favorite, and it's not mine. I didn't come up with any of these juices at all. I was a late comer into the game. There was guys, Norman Walker and, Arnold Ehret and John Rose and Dan McDonald, all these guys who have really really honed in on the juice recipes and all. Luke Corona, obviously, and that's
Hmm.
who I'm going to mention. His green juice, the lemon ginger blast, probably by far my favorite favorite green juice, hands down, but probably my favorite juice altogether because it infuses high amounts of minerals. I mean, we're gonna say this with every juice, but biophoton rich, just yeah, and a lot of astringent properties and a lot of spice with the habanero. And it's just
Hmm.
it's a body deodorizer. It's a decalcifier. It breaks up the mucus in your body, all those biofilms. It really is, I think, the most powerful juice to help you clear those detoxification pathways and really cleanse that liver. And it is so tasty too. I mean, it is out of this world. So if you like a spicy juice too, and it could take some getting used to, but when you do, it's like you crave it and you can't go a day without it. So
Can you
that's
ramble
mine.
off? Because I know there's a lot of ingredients. Can you ramble them off of
Yes,
memory? Okay,
absolutely,
let's go for
absolutely. So
it.
you have apples, you have celery, spinach, cilantro, parsley, fennel, lemon, ginger, turmeric, and habanero. And if I forgot, oh,
Cucumber?
and cucumber. Yes, thank you. Yes, yeah,
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 yeah. So yeah, shout out to Lou Corona and the Lemon Ginger
yeah.
Blast, and Dan McDonald's the one that
Oh
really made
gosh,
that famous. But
yeah, for sure.
yeah, so my favorite juice recipe is a simple one, but I think it's really I'm going to give something on the opposite end of the spectrum. So what Matt gave you is like the super power juice of all power juices. I'm going to give you the soft, light, easy, feminine one if you're a little bit skittish of drinking green juice. So I've worked with people who they're just not real comfortable with stuff that's green, whether it's a soup or a smoothie or a juice. And so if you're especially if you're new to juicing or new to green juices, a really amazing combination is cucumber, apple, and fennel bulb.
Oh,
It's very sweet, it's very light, and has a really nice kind of like a black licorice flavor. If you don't like black licorice, you will still probably like this juice, so don't let that turn you off. But it's just a very refreshing, very light, very easy going down. And I use that juice for people who are brand new to juicing and they're not too sure about something that looks kind of green. I introduced this one, and I mean, I don't know if I invented it, but it's just one of my favorite juices that I like to drink personally, and I find that people find it really palatable in the beginning. So kind of dip your toes in with the one that I gave, and then when you get, the courage up, you can go for what Matt gave, and if you really have courage, you can start adding dandelion to the lemon ginger blast.
and I was gonna say you can vary you can do different variations of the lemon ginger blast, and oftentimes that is one of my ingredients that I forgot to mention that's in my version. is dandelion. I
Mhm.
love dandelion. In fact, if I'm making a green juice, there's almost no time where I'm not putting dandelion in there because it's so powerful, so strong for your liver detoxification, so help, for the health of your liver and so much more though. But it's just
Right.
I love the flavor. I love the way it makes me feel. It literally has an energy about it. I mean, you can feel it. These juices, and it sound, some people may be watching this. I don't think they would think we're crazy, but some people might think we're a little off, being like, you can feel the energy of that plant when it enters your body, and it's like, oh, most definitely, you can feel it. It's absorbing, number one, before it even hits your stomach. It's absorbing in your mouth, in your throat, all along your GI tract. It is just your body is inviting it in, and it's just like, give it to me. I need it for all these cells, and give it to me for that deep intercellular hydration. It's like you're like a sponge. You're just absorbing it. So.
Yeah, and everything has consciousness. And it's well known in the yogic tradition that when you consume a food, your physical body takes on the physical attributes of that food, but your subtle body takes on the subtle attributes. And so if you start paying attention, every food has a frequency, every food has a personality. I shared this story with Matt. I had a client once who told me about a shamanic journey that she went on, and she ended up in a field of dandelions, and she was right there on their level. And she was talking to one of the dandelions in her journey. Okay, this is like a psychic journey, spiritual journey. And she questioned the dandelion about itself. And this dandelion replied to her that it was the queen. And that's interesting because if you know about the herbal realm, and dandelion is such a powerful healer used in ancient herbal medicine for such a long time. So this dandelion shared with my client that she was the queen. And my client inquired about all the other dandelions in the field. And quite casually, this dandelion replied to my client and said, "We're all the queen." So I thought there was a deep message in that we're all bright, we're all lights, we're all equally valuable and equally on that level, that level of majesty. And so the more sensitive you are, and as you go through this journey and clean up your body, it does increase your sensitivity. And it can be a blessing and a curse, because when you're more sensitive, you definitely are able to tap more into your intuition. You're able to tap into your feeling sense, picking up on subtle things. You're also able to connect more deeply with yourself, with the earth, with other people. But that extra sensitivity, even just on the physiological level, you will find that your senses are heightened. This is something I experienced on my first 3-day juice cleanses. My sight and my hearing and my sense of smell were super amplified, almost borderline psychedelic. And so, when you have that heightened sensitivity, it can make it difficult when you get around synthetic fragrance, cigarette smoke, obnoxious news media, this kind of stuff. But that sensitivity is a blessing because you are reverting back to your more pure natural state like a baby. And it guides you to the environments and the things that are in harmony with health versus working against you. So that sensitivity, I see that as a benefit.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And one other thing that to go along with all that, because that is all I've experienced it all, and that is so true. And then also you are so clear and clean that you can almost fall asleep at any second you want to. If I'm sitting in a chair doing these cleanses, I'm so attuned to everything, the energy all around me. I can feel people's energy, all that, like you were saying, the news, you turn off the TV, everything, lay back. Within 2 minutes, I can be asleep like that. I mean, in the middle of the day too, your body is in such a restful state, because it has released all those negative energies from all that putrefied, dead waste matter, and more often than just, rice and potatoes and all that sugar and all that stuff, more so when you release that dead animal waste inside of your body, because those animals were, number one, they were, regardless if you think you're getting your grass-fed meat and all that kind of stuff, that they're being treated fairly and all that kind of stuff. Unless you're a small farm and you've seen that they're nice to them, but there's no nice way to take somebody's life that doesn't want to be taken. So there is a ton of fear that was in that animal's, adrenaline. They release that adrenaline because they know what's happening. most of the food that people are eating that is an animal product is all factory farmed. I mean,
Mhm.
that's just the truth of it. The 98% of it, probably higher than that, but they know what's happening. They've seen it before, and they know that they're just waiting their turn, and that intense fear and adrenaline is just flooded into their tissues, and then they're slaughtered, and then you're consuming that. So you've consumed that terror in their DNA, and that actually converts over to you. Now you're experiencing anxiety and you're having these nightmares and all this kind of stuff, and you don't know
And
why.
fear. People wonder why they're so tense and fearful and having
Right.
anxiety, and then they go get some pills without actually looking at what is the root cause of this anxiety. And it can definitely be dietary, like you're saying. It can also be life situational, different things.
Sure. Yeah.
But let's get to the root cause. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's
All
really
that
key.
anger and all that, all of it. It's just any way you look at it, there's just no benefits to having dead animal flesh in your system that has literally been sitting there rotting for years and years because it may not be the actual chunk of, steak or let's call it's the meat, the flesh that you've eaten, but as your body fights and fights to digest it, it leaves behind these films, these biofilms, these little layers of sludge along the way, and you're doing that day in and day out, year after year.
Microbes and
Yes,
parasites and
yes.
bacteria and all sorts
Oh,
of,
thank you. Yes,
yeah,
exactly. Great point.
yeah.
Yeah. So I just wanted to make sure that people knew that, there is definitely heavy negative energies within them if they're eating those animal products. So,
Yeah, which goes back to what I was saying before, is your body's taking on all the acid waste and bacteria and things at the physical level, but you're touching on what's happening on the subtle levels too. And again, disturbing the mind, disturbing the sleep, disturbing the nervous system. So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
super key. Good.
Yeah.
So, just to kind of finish off with recipes, there's more recipes in the free guide that I mentioned below that we have linked in the description. So you can check that out if you want ideas. But as we mentioned, if you keep it simple, you can't go wrong. And it's, any watermelon juice is tasty. Even I love pure cucumber, pure celery, all of that. So yeah, keep it simple. And the best juice is the juice that you will drink.
That's
So.
true. Yes, that's true.
And then let's quickly just let people know how much to drink, because many times, as we were talking about the other day, Matt, people have a tendency to think this is a juice fast, and they're used to this calorie restriction, and especially if they're wanting to release excess body fat, they have this way of thinking, which I understand it, is that, oh, if I drink less, I'm going to lose more weight, and that actually backfires. It backfires on a juice feast or solid food vacation, and it also backfires if you're doing raw food nutrition, whether that's fruitarian or high raw or even plant-based. It's really about getting deeply nourished, and that will naturally balance your appetite. And so maybe, Matt, you could speak a little bit to how much juice should a person be consuming on a solid food vacation, and does it differ for men and women?
Yeah, and then that's a really good point. It does. And so my guideline is always more is way better on drinking a juice on a solid food vacation. And to touch base on, losing weight by cutting calories on a solid food vacation is detrimental because actually the more juice that you drink is the more flushing that you're going to get, and a lot of that weight that you're going to be losing on a solid food vacation, yes, is going to be body fat, but a lot of it, a good portion of it, is unbelievable amounts of internal waste matter that weighs a lot. Like if you was did like I did on my first solid food vacation, like John Rose had recommended, he's like, sit, when you pass it, you sit there, you keep it, and you weigh it. And you weigh it day in and day out, and you're going to find out that you passed over 90 days, depending on your situation, you passed 25 to 40 pounds of solid waste matter that was in your body. So I always say go more, more, more. You cannot do too many fruit juices on a solid food vacation. You're getting everything, you're getting every nutrient that your body needs, which you could talk all about nutrients and all that kind of stuff. The only nutrient I believe that we truly need in our body is the sunlight energy, and that's the biophotons. That's what gives us life. That's what gives life to everything. So that's that portion of it. But if you want to get down to like a technical, I always shoot for women. I always go for 1,800 calories minimum a day on the juice. I like to, a lot of the juice cleanse coaches out there will say 1,200 calories. I think that's personally starving yourself.
Mhm.
So my baseline is 1,800 calories, and then go as much as you like to after that. If you feel
Mhm.
like you're hungry at the end of the night or something, or you need a pep in your step to pick you up or something, get another juice. Go 2,400. I always go for minimum 2,200 on my solid food vacation every time. Not so much this last time, but I was hitting 2,400 to 3,000 calories a day. And people were thinking like, oh my gosh, 3,000 calories, you're going to blow up. It's like I just said, no. In fact, you fast track that process of not only cleaning out that internal waste matter, but now you're flushing those internal organs, those your liver and all that. The kidneys are now getting just flushed, and you're releasing toxins, which there's a lot of toxin waste as well in our bodies, and that's why when I have clients come to me and say, "Hey, what would you recommend for me?" I I'm more on the, side of like, hey, look, we're gonna do this and you're gonna go 3 days. You might as already have just banked that 3 days and keep going. Keep going the
Mhm.
distance and flesh yourself out. You need to get to these different stages that you would never ever have opened your eyes with. 3 days, very different from seven,
Mhm.
and 14 days, very different from 7 days.
Mhm.
Day 75 is vastly different from day 60. And it's crazy because you're like, it's only 15 more days. But the longer you go, and the longer flushing you have, it is just like peeling the layer of an onion, or, lifting that veil over and over and over and seeing brighter and brighter, skies and just like different colors. Like, oh my gosh, I would never have known this if I would have just, just kind of just wanted to do a nice little, touch base and just cleanse a little bit, lose a couple pounds. It's like it's more than losing a couple pounds. This is a life chain altering event. It literally is. I can't state it enough that if you test an idea whose time has come and you commit and you have somebody such as yourself or myself guide you along the way with proper, experience and know-how and everything, you will change your life in ways you had never ever thought possible before.
Yeah, and I think you hit on a really key thing there, Matt, is that when people think about losing weight, they think about, okay, well, I'm just going to reduce calories and then I'll lose a little bit of weight. But there's a big difference between just eating less and losing weight versus detoxifying the body. Because what happens is the body encapsulates toxins in fat cells. So, this is fat buffered toxins, and it does that in order to protect the other cells from these toxins. It's a self protection mechanism. So, when you're detoxifying the body, you're releasing the fat that is attached to those toxins, but you're also upgrading every system of your body. So, you're cleansing out the digestive tract, which makes your nutrient absorption more efficient. It's also cleaning up the microbiome. Your microbiome is interconnected with your cravings. So, when you clean up the microbiome, you're going to have you're going to come out the other side. Like I mentioned, my client who had just done a 7-day juice cleanse, she was craving only fruits and vegetables at the end. You're literally transforming your body and putting your baseline level of health and vitality up significantly. And that's very different than just eating the same thing, but eating less calories. So again, coming back to how we started, is this is why doing a solid food vacation or a juice feast, and I do call it a feast because as we're talking about, there really is no upper limit. You can have as much juice as you care for. And I recommend, as far as quantities, is just anytime you feel a little bit hunger, like even just a tinge, or that you might feel hunger, just have some more juice and keep flushing your body with all of that nutrition, hydration, like we mentioned, the biophotons. Radically different thing than just cutting calories to release weight. So this is a transformational, you're laying the foundation for a deeper transformation on multiple levels.
Yes. The only fast that I would ever recommend cutting calories on would be a water fast.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's the only, other than that, enjoy your juices, drink as much as you can possibly stand. You're only going to benefit from energy and hydration and flushing. And yeah, I mean, it's wonderful. It's a feast. It's a joyous time. And it's joyous because you don't have to think about eating and preparing other food. And oh,
Mhm.
we often think all day, like, okay, what's my next meal? What am I going to eat? Because you have those hunger pains. You have that addiction to the cooked foods that were, that they are drugs. They are altered. Their DNA is altered. Our body doesn't recognize it anymore. And it's become accustomed to the salty, the heavy fat, the heavy solvent and chemical laced foods. And this way, you're almost just like, oh, I don't even have to think about what I do today. I go in, you batch juice, and you're like, oh, I have 4 days of food. Boom. And you put it in, and you go, and there's no thinking, and it
Right.
takes all. Yeah, it's great.
Simplify. Yeah.
It's a feast. It's a party.
Yeah, yeah. So you had mentioned, baseline calories. What would you recommend for people who are asking, well, how do I know how many calories are in my juices?
Yeah, that's a good one. I had to find out, and John Rose, and I was kind of irritated when I was getting into him at first because he was very vague, and I'm like, can you please just put out like a book or something that gives us how many calories and everything? He did it this way on purpose, and I thank him for it every single day because it made me actually do my own research. So,
Mm.
and I recommend to all of my clients and anybody out there listening to this if you have questions on anything, go and seek them out. Find them. I mean, we have the World Wide Web will you have anything at your fingertips nowadays. So, hey, what are the highest, calorie juices? Well, I did that back then. I'm like, okay, well, if I'm going to sustain myself, what is it? Boom, apple juice, orange juice are the high, some of the highest right there, right off the bat. Watermelon juice is about half of those, but you love to drink it so much that you can get just as much calories from just drinking a whole day of watermelon juice as you would with apples and oranges, and carrots are another high calorie vegetable. But yeah, I mean, do your research. That's the one thing I would always recommend. If you have questions, journal, note everything down. The more that you go and seek out yourself, and instead of having somebody tell you, I mean, those are easy things to go and find out. The nuts and bolts and like getting down into the nitty gritty of the cleansing and how things working and stuff. Yeah, of course, you need to seek, advice from people like us if you don't know. But even then, you can research it. It's more powerful when you find out the solution yourself. And that's what John Rose made us do. And it came, the funny part is, my brother and I, when we found out his actual recipes, because I later talked to him on the phone, and I said, "Hey, look, can you send me over what were you using on your fast and everything?" It was a synchronicity because it was almost to the T of what we were doing on our first solid food vacation:
Wow.
apple juice, apple carrots, and green juice. And then
Interesting.
yeah, and then later he evolved as well, like we did. And he's like, now I love just doing nothing but watermelon juice. It's my favorite. It's so easy. It's easy to juice, easy to source, and it's, my favorite. It's a wonderful juice. It's so
Yeah.
flavorful. So, yeah, that's what I would say about that.
Yeah. And you said it. I mean, in this day and age, just Google it. You can type in,
Google.
how many calories in 32 ounces of apple juice. And if
Yeah.
you're making more complicated juices, I use an app called Chronometer. So you can easily type in, okay, I'm juicing. Usually, the easiest way that if you're using Chronometer is to juice your ingredients separate, and so and you'll learn this over time. Like, how many ounces do two apples make? How many ounces do two cucumbers make? And you kind of work that out. You can
Mhm.
type that into an app like Chronometer, and it will tell you how many calories there are.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
if that just seems like way too much work, just drink abundantly. Drink abundant amounts of juice. Anytime you feel hungry, just keep the juice flowing through your
Yeah.
system and you'll be just fine.
Yeah, and one thing, if you're going to do green juices, know that it's going to be half, if not less, than any of the fruit juices that you're going to drink.
Right.
So, in a 32-ounce jar of apple juice, you're looking at about 450 calories. And if you were to juice that same amount with greens, you're looking at about 200, maybe 150 of, for greens. So, greens going to yield, they fall short in calories, but they go long in minerals.
Right.
Fruit, are long in vitamins and short in minerals, but they're high in calories. So,
Right. And
if you
those
were
calories,
looking, yeah.
yeah. Go ahead.
Oh no, no, sorry. I was just gonna say, if you're looking to fulfill your calorie, fulfillment for the day, always grab a fruit juice to top you off at the end of the night if you need to. So.
Yeah, and I think that's really key because again, when you're doing a juice cleanse, it is a feast. And
Yeah.
so I think one of the mistakes that people make is either underestimating how much they need to drink, or if they're focusing on green juices, just getting overly hungry. And that's going to make it a lot harder to sustain however long you planned for your juice cleanse. If you're not getting enough juice, much more likely to fall off the wagon and not be able to complete the cleanse simply because you just weren't drinking enough. And again, this can go back into this kind of restriction mindset that's popular in the dieting world. And this is not about restriction at all. It's totally about abundance. And the nature is abundant, and all natural animals in the wild and nature, they consume as much as they care for until they're satisfied. And that satisfaction is naturally met easily. It's only when we distort and pervert the foods that we start having weird appetite fluctuations, overeating, because we're just sending all the wrong signals to our brain and to our gut. And so again, juicing is very natural. The only one step is that it's, we've removed that insoluble fiber, but that would happen if you were chewing, if you were chewing and deciding to spit out the fiber. But you're basically getting that natural food, and so your body is not going to allow you to overconsume really any natural foods
Right.
if you're focusing in on that. So I think the most important part of any juice cleanse is the transition. And this is the part, I mean, you've heard John Rose say it probably a million times, and it's been my own personal experience. And many people who are watching this, if they've done any kind of juice fasting or juice cleansing, I should say juice feasting or juice cleansing, it's that transition. So it can be easy to dive in, you're excited, you're all in, you're just doing juice, juice, juice. But now you're at that point where you're ready to transition back to some solid foods. This is the most important part of the cleanse because it's really going to make or break your results. If you transition properly, you're going to just elevate and up level everything exponentially. If you don't, that's okay too, but could be a little bit rough, and then you just get back on the horse. So what would you say, Matt, to transitioning off of a juice cleanse back into solid foods?
So parrot John Rose a lot because he was my mentor, and I've done vast amounts of juice cleansing since. And every
And
time
he's
it
a
came off,
legend.
I know. Every time I've come off, it's come off responsibly because that stuck in my mind because he really, really made it a point to be like, hey, look, his quote, any fool can complete a long extended juice cleanse, but it takes a wise man to break their fast properly. And that is for a very, very important reason because your body after 21 days of juicing, your intestines, the peristalsis, the muscle that helps you digest and pass food along, it now goes dormant after 21 days and it rests. And so now you basically have turned the engine off to your vehicle, allowing a true rest, and you're allowing the juice with all the high amounts of soluble fiber to still work its magic and gelat. It's like a gel inside of your intestines where it still allows you to break free all of that stagnant waste matter and push through and actually heal your gut at the same time. But so now you have shut down your intestines, the peristalsis, and I'm sorry, I kind of forgot what we were going. I got on the soluble
Right, yeah, we were
fiber.
talking about the transitioning, how to
Yes, yes,
transition, because once that's everything's calmed down, you do not want to throw a steak into I
that's
mean, you will really
yes,
sorely pay for doing something. I mean, we don't recommend that anyway, but
right.
even, dense foods, it's more difficult than if you just hadn't done the cleanse. That's my personal view, is that
Yeah,
can be really rough on the body. So yeah, just go ahead and, with
absolutely.
transitioning
Thank you for
wisely.
helping me. Thank you for
Yeah, yeah,
jumping in with the save. But no, but
yeah.
so basically, so now you're going to transition off of juices with more juices. It sounds funny, but you want to slowly wake up that digestive mechanism, and you got to do it with the number one. The key is the rule is for every 4 days you have fasted, you come off one day on your solid food bait on your breaking your fast. You could do the math and it'll turn out to be something like 15 or 20 days. You can go that. I'm not saying, hey, if the longer you come off the bet, which is great, but what John Rose is saying, any long-term fast can be broke within 6 to 10 days. So my rule of thumb, I was like, doubling the 6 day thing just to be safe. So I was coming off for 12 days, which, you come off by doing a prune test. And so this is if you're committed and devoted to absolutely being 100% clean from any solid waste matter. So you would soak about, I think it was 16 ounce of prunes or I'm sorry, 8 ounces of prunes and 16 ounces of water overnight. And in the morning, you drink all the water and you eat the prunes and you wait. And if you are passing those prunes, all those prunes come out within the 24-hour period, then you're good to go and you're clean, you're efficient, and you're good to continue breaking your fast with juices and then slowly with some solid fruits. So you would basically come off after that, after the prune test, you would come off with a juice for breakfast, a juice for lunch, and then you would have a solid piece of fruit. Something juicy, so something like an orange or even grapes, something really juicy still. You don't want, like a banana or avocado, something that's dense and slower to digest. And then you would do that for 2 days, 2 days. And then on the third and fourth day, you would do your breakfast with a juice, and then your lunch would be a juicy fruit, and your dinner would be another juicy fruit the next 2 days. And then the following 2 days, you would do a juice, a juicy fruit. You can either do a third meal of a juicy fruit, and then you could start introducing a salad with only 3 ingredients, but mainly just the lettuce. You could do tomatoes, which is another juicy fruit, but something very simple, and maybe squeeze some lemon juice over it. And you do that for another couple of days. That's about the top end when he's saying about 6 days of coming off. Now, if you want to do it like I did with 12 days, all you do is you just double that process. You'll do, instead of the first 2 days, you go 2 juices and 1 meal. Now you do it for the first 4 days, 2 juices and 1 fruit meal for 4 days. And then the next 4 days you would do a juice, 2 fruit meals. And then the last set of 4 days to round out the 12 days would be, it would be a fruit, and then a salad with a little bit of lemon juice. So sorry if that's kind of confusing.
No, I mean, the main thing what you're saying, and that's a great framework for people to follow, is just to go slow. And then this also kind of leads into the next piece is, okay, what do we want to do after the juice cleanse or the juice feast? And so, yeah, I think the biggest takeaway is to go slow and kind of crossfade, if you will, like going, easing off of the juice cleanse as you're somewhat reducing your juices, but still maintaining that juicing, and then slowly adding in juicy fruits and then maybe a little bit denser fruits. And then you could even go into like green smoothies is going to be a little bit denser, and then salads, but with low fat. So we're not piling nuts and seeds and oily dressings onto that salad. Initially, as time goes on, you can add in a little bit more fats with that salad, but we're just going, juice is very simple, easy to digest, then juicy fruits, then a little bit denser fruits, and then we can get into some vegetables. And it can be 100% raw if you're going for that, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Or it can be steamed vegetables, which tend to be a little bit easier to digest. So really well steamed carrots, for example. Although many health advocates will recommend doing some of the harder, like shredded carrots and things to help broom through the digestive tract. So everyone has a little bit different take on, depending on their experience and where they're coming from. But you can also listen to your intuition as well. Especially if you've gone the distance and you've gone a really long time on a cleanse, you're going to be reestablishing that communication and relationship with your body. And so you can feel, I remember years ago when my husband and I met actually at a meditation center. We were they had a really nice lunch spread every day, and he was standing there, looking, and I was thinking, what's he doing, trying to decide. And he was feeling the foods. And I loved that. I thought, wow, that's an amazing way to approach what am I going to put on my plate, rather than thinking about either like a knee jerk, desires and cravings, like, oh, I want this and this and this. Okay, that's like your desire body or your mental cravings. Or sometimes what's even worse is the intellectualization, like, oh, I need this much of this and this much of that. And according to so-called science that keeps changing. And depending on what fitness pro you talk to, they're going to say you need this many macros and all this crazy
Yeah.
stuff. But really, it's so much more simple than that. And I think Matt's right on board with what I'm about to say is that we advocate that you really tune in and feel. And again, when you're eating natural foods, which is what we're going to be moving into here in a minute, is what to do next. When you're consuming natural foods in their natural state, and you have the intention and some of the practice of really listening to your body, you can trust that intuition. It's when your taste buds are all messed up and your biochemistry is all messed up with chemicals and overeating and just weird food stuff, everything's going crazy and you think, oh, well, my intuition says I need Oreos. Probably not. So, this is a part of the journey, and learning to retrust your body and retrust that intuition and let it guide you as well when you transition off your cleanse. Go slow, I would say, is the number one thing to pay attention to. Be easy, recognize, like Matt pointed out, your digestive system has gone to sleep. So, if you were going to wake a baby or someone you love, you wouldn't go in there shouting and throw water unless you're really feeling cruel that day, but you would be gentle with it. So treat your digestive system and your body that way, with honor and respect, and just slowly begin to wake things up, adding a little bit more and using your intuition as well to guide you. And then you can also use that framework that Matt laid out to kind of keep you, within a healthy track as well.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's well said.
Yeah. And then so now the question is what to do next, and really keeping that positive momentum going. And so what would you recommend, Matt, as far as part of this, I'll just kind of preface it partially depends on where you're coming from. So if you've come from a standard American diet and you've done a very short juice cleanse, your transition and what you move into may look very different than someone who has been doing, a lot of cleansing and things for a long time. They've gone a really long time on their juice cleanse. That it's going to look a little bit different. And so, yeah, and also just sorry to interrupt here, but I realize my battery on my camera is about to die. So maybe we could wrap this up just with some good tips on where to go next and how to keep the positive momentum going, and then we'll finish our video. Sorry
Now,
to cut it short.
now, was that a subtle jab because I'm long-winded? No, I'm just
I'm
kidding.
long-winded too. Or
No,
two peas in a
no.
pod there.
I know we could go for hours and hours.
Yeah.
But so what I always recommend is at the very tail end of your fast, or I'm breaking your fast, the juice or the juicy fruit and then the salad. That's kind of like the life that I lead right now. So
Mhm.
if you've gone a longer distance, say the 90 days, and you've become more accustomed to this feeling, you're so clean and you're used to that, your taste buds are now adjusted, you may find that transition to, okay, so now I'm going to still have maybe a daily juice. I am going to have, a solid fruit meal or a smoothie or a smoothie. You can have both, and then a salad. That's my lifestyle that I lead to this day from my experience from the first solid food vacation, because I felt so good because I was able to chew and eat and feel full again. But then I had such a good variety too. I love my juices because it's a nice, quick, energizing, hydrating, quick pick me up in the morning. Later on, I'm like, okay, no, I like to sit down, peel my fruit, and eat it, and really chew and enjoy it. And then later on, before the gym or something like that, I'm like, okay, another heavier, denser banana smoothie with mangoes, cherries, what have you. And that feels really good too. And it's easy and it's still full of liquid. And then at night, you get to sit down and you really get to like, okay, now I get a big, big bowl and have a 3 to 5 pound salad. And it's just like,
Man salad or raw food
yes,
salad.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's it too. But I mean, you really get to enjoy all of your fruits and vegetables and those greens that are just everything is so juicy and liquidy, and you're feeling so good from it, and you're just like, how is this lifestyle not like spread throughout the world? Because you can truly indulge and have as much of it as you like, and you are going to be fit for life. So
Right.
that's my recommendation for a transitioning, diet outside of the juice cleanse. Is much of the juice cleanse with this with the smoothies, the juices, the solid fruits, and the salads, abundant salads. So that's
Very
my
simple.
perfect recommendation, and that's optimal. And now, if you need to incorporate some steamed vegetables, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing, honestly, there is nothing wrong with anything that you choose to do. It's about what you feel happiest with in your life. I am somebody that doesn't ever, put anybody down for what they eat just because I wouldn't eat something. Um, I think it's more importantly to be at peace and restful when you're eating, not like in a stressful manner or chaotic or emotionally eating or anything like that. I think it's more important to be grateful for anything that you're able to sustain your body with at that time, and you just do your best. You do the very best that you can, and just have gratitude for anything that you have at your feet. So.
Yeah, I agree. The number one most important ingredient is that positivity, that, excuse me, that gratitude, that positivity, and just acceptance of your journey. I know very few people who have gone down this path and they just nailed it and they just stayed on that trajectory.
Oh
Most of
yeah.
us have gone a little bit forward, a little bit backwards. Of course, if you're not super familiar with both Matt and I, we follow a high raw and many times 100% raw fruit-based raw vegan diet. But I also eat cooked food, and I will have sometimes I eat more cooked food or less. And so, excuse me. I think the main thing to keep in mind is it's just there's levels,
Yeah.
and to have a good idea when you're transitioning and going forward is, where would you like to aim for? What can you do that's going to be up leveling from what you were doing before? Just find one way or like one step to upgrade your nutrition from whatever you're doing before the cleanse, and you're moving in the right direction. And then you can just keep nudging it a little bit further, a little bit cleaner, maybe a little bit more raw foods. I feel my absolute best on 100% raw food nutrition, focused on fruit. The majority of my calories from fruit is where I feel the best. And as Matt said, I eat as much as I care for. I don't have any problem with putting on weight. Super healthy, super vibrant. It's amazing. And at the same time, I give myself the flexibility if I'm with friends and family, if I feel like going to a restaurant or something, then for me personally, it's always plant-based. So I made that decision over 20 years ago, but just find kind of where your point is or where you're wanting to go, and then just keep leaning into that. Keep leaning into that, even if you backslide. It's totally normal. It's part of the path. And again, that's self-love, self-acceptance, and that ease, approaching this playfully and relaxed. You're going to get a lot further than if you tried to be perfect or try to do it rigid, or if you go a little sideways, if you turn it into a drama. That's how things snowball. So it's really important, the mindset piece. And if you feel like you'd like some help and support, Matt and I both offer coaching, and there'll be links below this video on how to get in touch with us. And as I mentioned, our free guide is linked below as well, so you can get that on how to really go through a juice cleanse experience. And also, Matt and I are going to be, if we can get the technology sorted out, we're going to be doing regular live streams, probably every Tuesday evening at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. That's in the United States. So we'll announce that through our various email lists and channels. If you're not on our email list or you're not connected in our communities, go ahead and leave a comment. We'll let you know how you can stay connected and stay updated on what we're offering. But yeah, that'll be the next thing going forward. And we'll just keep giving you tips to improve your health, improve your physique, improve your mindset, and overall improve your life. So thank you so much, Matt. I really appreciate this. I always love connecting with Matt. We talk a lot off camera as well. So we're two peas in a pod, as I said, and it's been a lot of fun. And as he mentioned, we've got tons of information to share. So hopefully you found this. If you made it this far, I'm impressed. It means that you're really committed to your health. So good on you, and hope you have a wonderful day. And we will see you hopefully next time in our live stream.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Matt. Take care. Bye
Bye-bye.
for now.